And how would you propose to establish international credit?
Our first step would be to incur a national debt. The greater the debt, the greater the credit. And to that end, I have recommended to the President that Congress adopt all the debts incurred by the individual states during the war through a national bank. The idea being that if the states owe Congress money, then other nations will feel more inclined to lend it to us.
If the states are indebted to a central authority, it increases the power of the central government.
There you have it exactly. The greater the government's responsibility, the greater its authority.
The moneyed interest in this country is all in the north, so the wealth and power would inevitably be concentrated there in the federal government, to the expense of the South.
Would you believe this is how Washington, D.C. was created? In a deal made by Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, the national capital was moved to Washington, D.C. in order for the national government to take on all of the state's debts from the Revolutionary War. Jefferson was terrified of a strong national government as well as the North's power. He thought if they moved the capital further south, it would take away some of the power of the North. So this is why Washington, D.C. was created right outside of Virginia. About a year and a half after Washington takes office, this new government is going to be tested much like the Articles of Confederation was. This time, farmers on the frontier are upset over a federal tax on whiskey. These farmers used to take many of their crops and turn it into whiskey due to terrible road conditions and hard travel. It was difficult to get their crops from one place to another. So many of these farmers were using things like whiskey just like money. So when the federal government put a tax on it, it made them a little upset. So they began to rebel. And once again, these farmers are going to look to the past for inspiration. However, George Washington is going to learn from the mistakes of the past. He's going to ride into Pennsylvania on his pretty white horse with the United States military and end this rebellion. The ending of the Whiskey Rebellion is going to prove that our federal government had the power that the Articles of Confederation didn't have. This new government is going to be tested quite a bit under George Washington. Washington needed to make a decision about his foreign policy, how he was going to deal with other nations. So he chose a policy of neutrality because he felt the United States was too weak to be drawn into another conflict. But many things are going to try to draw him in. First off, pirates from a country called Algiers are going to be attacking our ships on the oceans. Washington and the United States government are actually going to pay them protection money to make sure that we don't get drawn into another war. Next, Great Britain's going to be attacking our ships as well. This is going to lead to something called Jay's Treaty, which basically gave Great Britain the ability to attack any of our ships that were headed to France. Lastly, Great Britain and France are going to go to war again. When George Washington hears about this,
I have no strong feelings one way or the other.
But Washington's policy of neutrality is going to be tested when France sends an ambassador by the name of Genet to the United States to try to convince us to join France in their fight against Great Britain.
This is the end of monarchy! The end of tyranny!
Now that war has been declared between your country and Great Britain, we must remain neutral. Ambassador Genet. The United States is a new and independent nation. It is in our best national interest to keep ourselves apart from affairs to which we have no attachment.
Surely the cause of France is the cause of America, of the world. A threat to France is a threat to America. And we have a treaty, Mr. President. A treaty made when you were at war with England.
I remind the ambassador that our treaty with France was made with King Louis. The king's murder renders that compact no longer binding.
Thousands of your people have called themselves our brother. Since I landed in America, I have found many willing to fight.
You will refrain, Ambassador Genet, from any further efforts to recruit our citizens to belligerent actions. I will not allow you to outfit privateers to join in your war against England.
It is not for you to tell me this.
Tread carefully, sir.
The people will command me as they command you.
Ambassador Genet.
You will hear from me again, sir. And then I will speak to you with a million voices, and you will obey.
The famous French diplomacy.
Mr. Jefferson. Ambassador Genet has taken leave of his senses.
Issues such as this and other issues of government policy are going to lead to a bitter rivalry between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson.
Mr. Jefferson stands at the head of the faction, in my judgment, subversive to the principles of good government and dangerous to the peace, union, and happiness of this country.
Well, any such faction, if it exists, Mr. Hamilton, is grossly underrepresented in this cabinet, which persists in its determination to replace colonial subjugation by Great Britain with equally pernicious financial...
Enough, Mr. Jefferson, enough. You will hereafter show more charity for each other's opinions, and Mr. Jefferson, I will not have this government undermined by party politics and acts.
After 2 terms and 8 years, Washington had enough. In one final act as president, George Washington penned a farewell address that's going to be read in Congress every year until the 1970s. In this farewell address, Washington listed the benefits of a federal government, stressed the importance of religion and morality, warned against permanent foreign alliances, warned against accruing too much debt, warned against an overgrown military, and most of all, after seeing what happened with Hamilton and Jefferson, warned against the two-party system.
So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. I leave and heave a sigh and say goodbye. Goodbye.